Hello and welcome to the Trending Now podcast for this Friday, May 3rd, 2024. Thank you for joining us as we recap the week that was on Trending Now, which you can catch every Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. and 11:30 on CHCH.com and streaming live on our Trending Now YouTube page. Coming up on today's show, former top aide to former President Donald Trump took the stand to testify in her former boss's criminal hush money trial. The host of Trending Now, Nicole Martin, has been following this trial very closely since the beginning and joins us with the latest next. William Nylander had a pair of goals as the Maple Leafs kept their season alive to force a Game 7 with a big home win over the Bruins last night. Jason Gaidola joins us with his thoughts on the series and much more coming up later on in the show. And Kendrick Lamar drops yet another diss track against fellow rapper Drake, his second in less than a week. Our resident entertainment expert and Trending Now producer Laura Sebben helps make sense of all the rapper drama before we say goodbye here on the Trending Now podcast. But drama in the courtroom today, as there has been for weeks. And to discuss that, Nicole Martin is here, that trial being the Trump trial. Here we are, week 3.
Yeah,
week
what is
2
this?
of
Is
testimony.
this day 11, day 12 of testimony? I don't know.
There was a day off Monday, of course, the regular day off on Wednesday. Today, though, pretty significant day. An audible gasp when Hope Hicks called to testify today?
Yeah, she was subpoenaed by the prosecution. She did not want to be there. She said how nervous she was. If anything, she was saying some really positive things about him, referring to him only as Mr. Trump, talking about how he was a family man, that Melania, I guess, was very upset when she heard about the rumors with Karen McDougal, the Playboy model, that he actually... allegedly, he says it didn't happen. She says it did. An affair for over 10 months. Anyways, a lot happening with Hope Hicks on the stand today. Yeah. So much drama yesterday as well in this case.
What happened yesterday?
Okay, yesterday they released a secretly taped phone call between Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer and fixer, and Trump, where he specifically mentioned the money. He said $150,000. They were talking about payment. Trump even said, well, can we just pay cash? How about a check? They're really teeing this up, the prosecution, for Michael Cohen's testimony, which is going to be coming up soon in this trial. But they're putting all the pieces in place to talk about the hush money scheme.
We heard from, what I heard from yesterday's testimony too, though, is that the defense did a pretty good job of, cross-examining with, was it Karen McDougal's lawyer or was it Stormy Daniels? Both of their lawyers?
He represented both of them in the hush money deals.
And they poked a lot of kind of holes in his theory and got him pretty frazzled up there on the stand.
Yeah, they did. One other thing that Trump's attorneys did yesterday as well was, this was when it came down to the gag order situation that Trump always talks about. They wanted to bring up some posts, I should say, on X from Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
And this was so interesting because people are saying it actually kind of benefited Trump in a way because it's showing Michael Cohen's character a little bit. But the hashtag to this day is still trending. Vaughn shits in his pants. Okay, that was Michael Cohen's nickname.
That's quote unquote.
Not me saying it, but quote unquote. Vaughn shits in his pants.
Which we have had a discussion. We can't say on the regular show.
No, but I can say it as many times as I want right here.
Don shits in his pants.
Yes.
That because there's the rumor that he's smelly. So basically,
that he was apparently letting out a lot of farts.
Trump's lawyers were saying that he's got to be able to defend himself.
Yes.
Against this.
From things like this. And so that's another way that Trump's attorneys are trying to also poke holes in Michael Cohen ahead of his testimony too.
Why is the Access Hollywood tape such a big proponent to this? Like, that has nothing to do with the payments. There's nothing to do with the National Enquirer when it comes to that Access Hollywood tape, and we don't need to discuss it. It's infamous. It was the one that was released 2016. Him and Billy Bush on a bus. Yeah. When you're a celebrity, you get to do it. You can grab them by their whatever. Why is this important to the trial?
So prosecutors say it's really at the heart of this case. It's really what started the campaign thinking, okay, we got to look at all the negative stories about this guy and maybe put a pin in it before it gets out, because this was leading up to a major debate. And Hope Hicks, who's testifying today, she was like the campaign type manager at the time for his election campaign. And she said, oh my God, like it was a mess. They were in crisis mode after this Access Hollywood tape came out. I have to say, Judge Merchan, as much as Trump hates the guy, he wouldn't allow the Access Hollywood tape to be played in court. So instead, Hope Hicks read some of the transcript of it and the parts that were concerning to them. And the one you mentioned that, I'm a star, I can do what I want, I can grab them by the
Prosecutors say the Access Hollywood tape hastened his then lawyer, Michael Cohen. So that's basically what you just said, that okay, this is a bigger issue than we think now. Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal.
Now let's just go through all the ladies that may come forward here, because if we had this tape come out, then we had a adult film star come out alleging an affair, and then we had a Playboy model coming out saying it's a long-term affair while he's married with Melania, while Barron's just being born. It's not going to look good.
By the way, a right-wing talking point was kind of evaporated this week after the judge said, you can go to your son's graduation. So what the amount of air wasted though at the time, right? That at no point did he say you can't go, yet Trump's lawyers went on TV and said Fox News anchors went in and said how unfair that they're not even letting him go to trial. That's never what he said. And now he said this week, you can go to the trial. You can go to the graduation.
Along that same line, like pulling clips of Trump every day. Every day he comes out saying there's a gag order. I cannot say.
Well, he said he can't
say anything.
Testify. Now he's saying, because somebody really wanted to testify. Yeah.
It's untrue. So Judge Merchan this morning said to Trump, hey, there's a gag order. You can't talk about witnesses, the jurors, the prosecution online on your Truth Social, but you have every opportunity to come up and tell your story and testify. So we'll still see if that happens.
You have been watching this all week. You've been watching. Have you noticed anything change in Trump? Less defiant. He's coming out. He's doing these pre-trial. Before he goes in, he says something. After he comes out, is there anything that's really stood out, or has he kind of been able to maintain the stamina, if we want to call it? I know he has fallen asleep. And he said yesterday, though, he's just shutting his quote beautiful blue eyes. He called
They're very blue. Honestly, when you look at them.
He called it himself on his own Truth Social. He's like, I'm not sleeping. I'm just closing my beautiful blue eyes.
Okay.
Which takes a certain level of ego that I don't think I'll ever have.
No.
But have you noticed anything different in Trump?
It's a really good question. I do want to quickly touch on his sleeping thing, because he does come out all week. He has said how cold it is in the courtroom.
Oh, yes. Since day one, he's been saying that.
I'm thinking that they upped the air conditioning to keep him awake. Maybe, right? I don't know. But no, it is interesting to see the things that he's talking about now when he comes out in the morning and later on in the afternoon when they dismiss. And he really can't campaign that much. He keeps talking about how he wants to be in Georgia, he wants to be in Pennsylvania, he wants to be in Florida, but he can't because he's here. He has to be at the trial like any other person who's accused of a criminal offense. And so he's using his opportunity in front of the media now to also talk about issues within the United States. And so it's really gone further than just bashing the trial and calling it a witch hunt. It's now talking about the campus protests. It's talking about the Middle East. It's bashing Joe Biden. It's calling for debates. So he is using that platform in other ways.
And it takes you right back to 2020 with the daily COVID press conferences where you were all watching it anyway because you had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And it's just issues of the day. And I'm sure he would go on for hours out there.
Oh, yeah.
Taking questions, coming up with answers on the spot.
We're going to get the Clorox in the bloodstream. Everything else he came up with at the time.
We're going to bleach out the drugs, or bleach out the COVID there. Yeah. Interesting moment in Parliament this week.
Yeah.
Question period. Pierre Poilievre was given a warning to clean up his language. Didn't take it.
No.
What happened at Queen's Park this week? Or question period this week in the Parliament?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, from American politics to the Canadian politics chaos. I like the segue.
Yeah, thank you.
And no, it was pretty fiery, and it was actually stemming from an issue in British Columbia because the BC NDP government and the Liberals federally, they had come up with a plan to decriminalize some hard drugs. And what the BC government is finding is, okay, we've got way more overdoses, crime, people on the streets shooting up. But the death, number one issue, or the people dying. And so they've actually asked the Liberal government to reverse course. Can we please recriminalize all of these drugs so we can get people off the streets, hopefully get them the help that they need? Anyway, so Pierre Poilievre's question and question period is his opportunity to ask questions of the Prime Minister. And every time he was asking about the BC drug issue, Trudeau kind of skirted around at first, and then put it back on him, saying, why aren't you condemning, far-right extremists like Alex Jones who are endorsing you? So Pierre was getting pretty angry and then started referring to the policy as a wacko policy, but then said by a wacko prime minister. So immediately the speaker, Greg Fergus, said, okay, you need to withdraw. So instead of just saying, okay, I withdraw, he said, I withdraw, but I replace wacko with radical. I replace wacko with extremist. Yeah. And so we talked to conservatives like the former conservative deputy leader, Lisa Raitt, and she said, it's not an infringement of democracy in any ways. The speaker is voted upon by all members, conservative, NDP, Bloc, everyone. And his rules go. So if he thought, you know what, you're taking it too far, he can't. But did he skip all the way to the end of the book and say, you're out, you're expelled? Yes, he did do that. There may have been other things he could have done.
Fergus issued a warning to Poilievre after he referred to Trudeau as the guy who spent the first half of his adult life as a practicing racist, referring to photos that emerged during the 2019 election campaign. And then, coincidentally enough, Alex Jones did tweet out, oh, wow, I'm being called by Prime Minister Blackface. This is a proud accomplishment for me. I've been even on this show, I've had feedback, we've had a clip that might be about Alex Jones or Poilievre, and it's immediately if you're ever on the side of Alex Jones, you might be on the wrong side.
Yeah.
You might be on the wrong side. This is a guy who's been sued for $500 million for making up lies about murdered children in a school shooting. You might be on the wrong side.
I know.
And I'm not choosing a side here. That's not what I do.
Every time, and we have asked Pierre Poilievre's camp for comment on this a number of times, and every time we do get a statement saying that they do not pay attention to the person. Again, they don't list them. We don't pay attention to the person you're speaking with or what an American is talking about. We're concerned about Canadians and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think, could he just come out and say, I condemn it? But I think the bigger issue here at hand is how large of a base the Conservatives have to appeal to. And I wonder, that's just my personal take, but I wonder how much that also plays into all of this as well, and this politicking around what's going on.
Even if it is 10% of your base, that's still, 10% of the base, especially in a it's one thing, especially in a three-party system. We're talking about, Poilievre having the support of 40% of Canadians. We have a three-party system. So 40%, as we've learned here in Ontario, is enough to get you a pretty solid majority. And that's, my only thing is, there was an MP just down the road from us here in Burlington who said she can't go to the grocery store anymore. It's gotten too divisive. People are attacking her at the grocery store. The tough thing for, I think in the next election cycle, we'll be coming on and doing the show.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding.
And especially a podcast in which, I have to talk a little bit longer than a 2.5-minute report.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to present these, because when you are going to use extremist language, it's tough. And when you're attacked on social media by people who don't have names or faces, it's just it's easy for us to say we can ignore it all the time no matter what, but it's just man, let's calm down a little bit.
Well, no kidding.
It's not the end of the world. No matter what party gets in, it's not going to be the end of the world.
The one thing that I think about too, and this was brought up in this whole question period debacle, was by Trudeau talking about Pierre Poilievre on the East Coast, talking with members who had the Diagolon logo on their trailer that he went into and talked to them. They also had the whole F Trudeau flags all over the place. Can you imagine if it was reversed? If, Trudeau was hanging out with people who had flags that said F Poilievre? It's just, I don't know where we're at right now in Canadian politics. It feels very Americanized after everything with Trump that came in. So let's just tie the two stories together there. But I don't know where. And I can't imagine running for politics, in any political
not at all
landscape here. There's no way.
Local council, nothing. I have no interest in that. Especially
you have to either have a strong backbone
just the toxicity of it all right now. And I know it's amped up by social media. Maybe that's a discussion of just me getting off of social media and just being happier, not being on Twitter.
Are you off?
No, I'm trying. I'm thinking about it.
Oh, wow.
Because my thing is I would need it for work.
Yes.
So, like, I think I would just need access to, like, the CH account or something so I can keep track of things. I just don't want my own personal account anymore. Right? And that's where I'm at. Even Instagram, I have, like, a smaller, like, personal Instagram.
Yeah.
And then I had a Louis B, like, Instagram for, like, me on TV. And even that one, I haven't posted in, like, a year. I really have no interest in, like...
Do you feel happier? How do you feel?
A little bit. My thing is just, like, even this job, it's like, yes, you might see me on TV and you might feel like you know me and whatever. If you want to come up to me and have a conversation, that's great. Like, even if you have, like, some constructive criticism, because you're coming to me in person.
Yeah, it's not like a keyboard
warrior. You're not anonymous. You're not hiding behind, a keyboard. So, anyway. Little tangent there.
I like it.
Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it, Nicole. You got a show to get ready for yourself.
Okay.
Nicole Martin, my thanks to her for joining me on today's show. All right, wanted to get to this story because I've already broken it, that being the Loblaw boycott. Not that I was thinking about doing it anyway, but I very clearly went to Fortino's twice in the last 3 days, and it's already May 3rd. But it all started on Reddit with the page Loblaws is out of control, and now upwards of 100,000 Canadians say they'll be getting groceries at another location this month. Now, one of the organizers of the month-long boycott said she met with the grocer's president and CEO Per Bank on Thursday afternoon. Great name, Per Bank. Emily Johnson, who started the Reddit page, said she shared shoppers' concerns and questions with Bank, and she feels like the boycotters have the company's attention. Loblaw said earlier in the week that it had reached out to boycott organizers to set up a meeting. Johnson says Bank discussed some of the things the grocery is doing to try to help customers struggling with the cost of living. Bank and Loblaw chairman Galen Weston spoke at the company's annual general meeting Thursday, where they pushed back on what they called misguided criticism of the company. Customers have been growing increasingly frustrated with rising food prices and the profits earned by grocery companies. Jason Gaidola was on that story a little bit this week, weren't you? Talking about the Loblaw boycotts?
I was, and I did reach out to the Loblaws is out of control the Reddit page. Unfortunately, they weren't available for comment. I mean, it's just the nature of the business, but
I get it. Groceries are expensive. The only thing is, like,
lots of things are expensive.
But, like, grocery shopping, I find is a bit of a sport sometimes, though, too. Like, I love, like, there's a joke like Flyer Day Thursday. Like, I'm checking the Flip app to find out what's on sale. Like, I like searching for deals, and if you buy what's on sale, if you're creative enough to be able to whip something up in the kitchen just based on what's on sale, you can shop relatively cheap, and you can go to Loblaws too. Like, I'm not defending them. I think they're, corporate greed run amok 100%. It's all for profit shareholders. That's what it's for, right?
I mean, it's like, what else? I mean, you could support your an independent local
grocer. For sure.
Usually for grocery shopping, I mean, I have my own game plan. Everyone's got their own game plan on how they approach it, right?
Yeah.
I just rock Costco and no frills.
Costco and no frills. That's a great combo. That's a great combo. I like the 50% off stickers. That's a good one too. Which they originally dropped, which they were going to drop to 30, and then after uproar, they went back to 50.
Sorry, just to be clear, you're talking about like the reduced price items?
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of them I look at them like, still looks pretty good to me. Why not?
And if you're cooking it tonight, no problem. That's what the sticker says. I did bring you on to talk about that. It was your story, but I wanted to bring you on because the Toronto Maple Leafs forced Game 7.
Of course they did.
Last night. Okay, so I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I've been saying this since Tuesday. I had zero confidence going into the game. I said, hey, listen, that was Game 4. They were down, or Game 5. They were down 3-1, right? And I was like, okay, it's in Boston, whatever. This is going to be tough. I'm in the same boat where I think this is just history repeating itself, man. Like, why am I going to get psyched up to be let down on Saturday?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't, if I'm a Leaf fan, I'm not a Leaf fan, but if I was a Leaf fan, I wouldn't really think it that way. It's getting, and I do feel the vibes from, from a lot of fans and media that they feel like this is it. It's almost like they're jumping ahead of the gun, which I'm like, well, I don't know. They have all the momentum, that's for sure. And the way they played the last two games, to get back in this series, I mean, they're playing much harder. They're getting, I think collectively, Toronto looks like
without Austin Matthews.
But I just feel like they're defending really well. I will say this though, and I got everyone saying, oh, they're outplaying them. I'm like, yeah, but Boston is deliberately playing a very I think they are playing a deliberate defensive style, but it's catching up to them because while watching them, I'm like, the Bruins look pretty slow.
Yeah.
They look like a slow team. By the way, this shirt was not really meant to be a troll.
Oh, yeah. No,
I just happened to wear it. It's I didn't want to upset
it would
anybody.
kind of be an opposite troll, though, because it was the team from Toronto that won, not the team from Boston that won last night.
That's
right?
true, but
Yeah.
I mean, it just there's sensitivity, right?
How tuned in have you been? Like NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs. Like it's tough. Like that's the one thing I've also realized. Like it's tough. A lot of games start late. I think the 76ers game started at 9 p.m. last night, which is crazy. Game's in Philadelphia. Game's in Philadelphia, so it's starting at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Because I find it's really tough to watch all of it.
you just can't. And I think we've gone down this road at least to some degree, very tepidly, that there's so much sports content out there. There's so much going on. It's just impossible to be involved in all of it, right?
Yeah.
You kind of just have to pick your spots, and the sports market is pretty flat. This is why I think viewership is, unless you're the NFL, like it's going to be, people are just not like everything.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's the NFL and everything else.
And I think
the ratings will just kind of be like,
the draft proved that last week in Detroit too. Like the crowds in Detroit for a draft, like hundreds of thousands of people in this outdoor plaza. And like you go to the Leafs and think, oh wow, look at all those people outside of the rink, watching it on a big screen,
is good.
Which is a playoff game in Toronto, the hockey mecca of the world, as they like to refer to themselves. But yeah, the NFL, I would agree, is a monster. NBA, I find I'm just confused by the NBA these days because guys switch teams so often. I don't know who's on which team. I always find that James Harden, is he on the Clippers? Is he on the Suns? Things like that.
The ratings are down in the NBA. Like the NBA is just
have you been tuned into any of the NBA?
I tune in because it's been a staple watch, right? But I think I don't know, the quality of the NBA is I personally think it's struggling. I know this may be controversial or not popular, but the quality of the NBA is actually pretty. I think it's a little poor right now. Compared, and
they don't play defense.
It's a lot of it's defense. The officiating, I think, is the worst in sports.
That's saying something. MLB umpiring is pretty bad.
No, NBA basketball is the worst. It just I watched the Lakers series and how they, and again, it's a tough job, but it's getting so bad. But here's the problem: no one. I've rarely seen anyone really talk about it. So I'm wondering, that actually shows me that no one even watching these games. Maybe here in Canada, right?
Yeah,
and also too, maybe the Raptors not being in is playing a role.
That's huge too. Yeah.
But minus the NFL, I mean, most sports again, it's mostly local, right? In terms of support and interest, it's all localized. So, but I do try to. That doesn't mean I'm not watching. I try to get. I find ways to balance it. I pick my spots. I'm still keeping an eye on the Canadian teams in the West, going back to the NHL, right? Yep. Unfortunately, I kind of supported the Jets a little bit. They're gone.
The Avalanche look really good though.
Yeah,
that was the thing in the West. I wasn't sure who was gonna. So 2 weeks into both these playoffs, what stood out to you in either the NHL, NBA? What have you taken away from it?
I mean, just from a team's performance, or
team's performance.
Let's go back to. I mean, if you want to go to the Oilers, they look like they've made some improvements, but they look like they've grown up, right? And possibly, I mean, the Leafs could follow that act, but I think Toronto and Edmonton are kind of like the golden franchises right now from Canadian hockey fans to see are these going to be true cup contenders?
I don't know, man. I don't know. The Leafs. That's the other thing about the Leafs, man. They're scary.
There's progress though. I mean, compared to what before, they just. I mean, there's growth. I think we're seeing growth. Unraveling from both teams, right? And I mean, with the goaltending in Toronto, that's obviously a big plus. The team looks better defensively as a collective unit, and they're getting production from the lower tier. Cheaper players, salary wise.
No, for sure.
That's important, right?
Nyes has had a great couple of games.
You can't always rely on your star. You want your stars to show up, but it's all about it's all about those third and fourth liners, right? Do you have those guys to get you to the promised land? So,
yeah. Well, appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy.
Fist bump.
Appreciate it. All right. My thanks to Jason Gaidola. He is working hard, and you will see him at 7 o'clock tonight on Trending Now, or maybe you have already watched him at 7 o'clock on Trending Now, depending on when you're listening to this. If you were an eager beaver and you've tuned into the show before the show, well, thank you. We really appreciate that. Speaking of his story today, he's working on the college protests, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says universities have to be trusted to manage the pro-Palestinian student encampments set up on their campuses. Trudeau says universities are places of learning where ideas can be exchanged and debated, but at the same time, everyone must feel safe on campus. University of Toronto's downtown campus encampment is one of several established at Canadian universities across the country. Demonstrations also taking place at McGill University in Montreal, University of Ottawa, and the University of British Columbia campus in Vancouver. Meanwhile, demonstrations have ceased at a small number of U.S. universities after school leaders have struck deals with pro-Palestinian protesters. The agreements this week have fended off possible disruptions to final exams and graduation ceremonies. Negotiations at schools including Northwestern and Rutgers stand out amidst the chaotic scenes playing out on campuses nationwide, where more than 2,300 people have been arrested since April 17th. That's not going away anytime soon, these protests. But we'll be sticking on it, won't we, Laura Sebben? We'll be following these protests.
As long as they're trending.
As long as they're trending. The excessive use of force, I think, is going to be something to watch. All these police
100%.
officers. It's been interesting to watch.
Yeah, you don't know what like they're being told or instructed to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people look at the stuff that unfolded at UCLA, and you had a large group of people who clearly did not go to the school because they were all much older than student age. Not to say that older people can't go to school, but it's usually not a large group of them that are there. And you just watched like police stand there and like wait while they like threw stuff at the students, and then the night after there was no counter protest and the police went in and started firing rubber bullets at kids that were just sitting in tents. So you don't know if their commander or whoever's in charge of them was like, hey, last night got a little out of hand, so let's go in guns blazing to make sure it doesn't get out of hand again. So you don't know what they're told, but it looks really bad from an outsider's perspective.
Like I said, the scenes out of Columbia, especially like New York, the New York riot police being brought in. Speaking of drama, Drake and Kendrick Lamar are beefing again? Are still beefing? How's this?
Still beefing.
So they're still beefing. So Kendrick Lamar dropped 2 diss tracks this week, which I think, to Drake's point in one of his songs, in one of his clapbacks, about how like, oh, you had to wait till Taylor Swift had like the momentum gone a little bit so you can get back at number 1. How legitimate is this beef?
From the sounds of it, like, Kendrick Lamar hates Drake. And I don't really get why. Like, Drake's a corny guy. Drake plays up his blackness a lot, like, and I can see it rubbing some people the wrong way. But, like, he really hates him. And I feel like Drake likes to act like he's a big man, so but Drake's not like bothering Kendrick Lamar unless Kendrick bothers him first, because he's kind of scared of him a little bit, I think. So I don't know, I guess his name being brought up in conversation with Drake's, this whole thing started with a verse J. Cole did in a Drake song called First Person Shooter, and he referenced himself, Drake and Kendrick, as like the top 3 like big rappers, and I guess his name being mentioned alongside Drake's just really triggered him, and so he's like, let me get on the track, let me say some stuff, and it's all devolved. And so, to be fair, Drake released
2 diss tracks as well.
Yeah.
So Kendrick did the one with that ignited all of this with Future and Metro Boomin.
Metro Boomin.
Yeah. Now you know who
Now
he is.
I know who he is.
So then Drake released 2 of his own push-ups and tailor-made freestyle, which ended up being removed from social media or from streaming platforms because he used AI to mimic Tupac's voice and got in trouble.
The family wanted,
got sent a cease and desist. Anyways, so Drake typically does drop 2 because I don't know if you remember back in the day when he was beefing with Meek Mill.
No, I don't remember. There's so much beef to keep up with.
I know.
Like, it's
well, Drake was beefing with Meek Mill, and he dropped 2 diss tracks. He dropped one called Charged Up, and then another one, which I'm sure you've heard, called Back to Back.
Yeah.
Which was,
I was actually singing that today. I was actually stuck my head. That was a diss track? Back to Back was a diss track?
On Meek Mill, yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And so in Euphoria, which was the diss track that Kendrick dropped on Tuesday, he references Back to Back and says, like, oh, I really liked that track, something. So everybody's like, oh, Kendrick's probably going to drop a second one, okay, so again with the lore.
Yeah.
When Charged Up dropped, it was kind of like an FU to Meek Mill. Like, he just listed a bunch of things that he didn't like about Meek Mill and just really went in on him. And then Back to Back was like a more fleshed out diss track, and it had a lot of layers. And I think it honestly actually won a Grammy. So Euphoria was kind of just like, here's all the stuff I hate about Drake. And then in this new one he dropped today called 616 in LA, he gets more into like the layers of it. And essentially tells Drake, you got a mole on your team. They're feeding me all this information about you and telling me that everybody on your team actually hates you. And so the track being called 616 in LA.
Yeah.
It's a callback to Drake's couple songs he has, because he likes to name stuff like he had 8 a.m. In Calabasas?
Best rap performance. It was nominated for Best Rap Performance, but still.
Well, Drake has some songs like 5 a.m. in Charlotte, I think one is called, and then the other one I think is like 8 a.m. in Toronto or something like that. So that's what the 616 in LA
So why do they post them and delete them? Because I'm back to back. So, he drops back to back, then Kendrick or Meek Mill drops Wanna Know. So you drop in is it like, does that create more lore around it? Because you change your mind? Like, why do these songs usually get like pulled?
Well, I think Meek Mill's because it was embarrassing and it wasn't good. So I think he was like, all right, I'll take the L. I lost this fight. And the tailor-made one, Drake probably would have kept up if he hadn't got the cease and desist from Tupac's family.
Later, a post on Instagram created by Meek appeared to show he was moving on from his war on Drake. Has that still been going on?
They're actually friends now. So,
Are they?
yeah.
See, so it's possible. My thing is,
this has been dating back to since like 2013,
it
though.
helps both of them. We're talking about them. Like,
100%.
I think that's, like, do you think there's any chance that it's 100% like not legitimate at all? Like, it is Hollywood. It is. You think they genuinely hate each other?
Yeah, I think Kendrick Lamar genuinely hates.
Speaking of genuinely hating people, Max Verstappen is racing in North America for the first time this season.
Yeah.
Miami. This is a day race, night race. But anyway, North America, pretty cool. It's been a couple weeks, a week for sure, right? Off.
Yeah, they didn't race last week.
Max Verstappen running away with it.
Why?
Why is he running away with it?
No, like, why? How do you know that?
Well, because he's the best. He's the best there ever was. It's proof, right? F1, how tuned in are you to this week?
I'll be watching. It's at 4:00, so I can make that swing.
Oh.
Yeah, I can sit in my bed and watch it.
Is that a Sunday race?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The North America ones are on Sunday because they're in a normal human time zone. But
hey,
it should be interesting. I don't know.
Were you kind of over? Is the Verstappen dominance kind of wearing on you a little bit?
No, I'm enjoying it because there's still like fights outside of first place. Like the rest of the grid is pretty. It like you never know. Like so the practice doesn't always tell you a ton, but the Alpines, their team hasn't been doing really well this season, but they finished in the top 10 at first practice today. So like maybe they did some upgrades to their car and they have a better car. So there's definitely still some interesting stuff. And as long as Lewis Hamilton is racing, I'll be watching. I actually had a discussion about that the other weekend that I was like, when Lewis retires, am I going to keep watching? Like he's the only one that I really like. care about. He's what got me into it. He's what keeps me watching.
He's got to win a couple this year, right? Like, he's got to win a couple races.
Maybe not this year, but I think he will when he goes to Ferrari.
Isn't the head Red Bull guy moving to Ferrari too? Isn't he going somewhere?
Well, they haven't
the designer
said where he's moving, but he
he's
is leaving Red Bull next season.
Do you think he's going to Ferrari?
I think so.
See, that's the drama. We're gonna need another season of Full Throttle. No, what's it called?
Drive to Survive.
Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
Big plans this weekend?
It's one of my oldest friends' birthdays this weekend.
How old are they turning?
Not old as in like age old, like longest friend. It's her birthday this weekend, and she's doing a karaoke party. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. What are you gonna sing?
I always, when I get like to a certain level of like silly in the night, I have a party trick where I'll sing a Celine Dion song because I can mimic her voice.
What?
So I'll probably do that. I always try to find some Doja Cat to throw on, some Rihanna, obviously.
I gotta work on Sunday, and I'll be watching the Leaf game on Saturday. So.
Why do you have to work on Sunday?
I'm filling in for Brienne, so I'm doing sports. So it's been a while.
Yeah, you gotta shake off the cobwebs.
What a real, what a real shift around here looks like. Appreciate you doing this. Have
Thanks,
a great weekend.
Louie. You
All
too.
Right. My thanks to Laura Sebben for joining me. My thanks to Jason Gaidola as well, and Nicole Martin for joining me on the show. And thank you for listening, because we could not do the show without your support. Make sure you follow Trending Now on all your various social media channels. That includes Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, at Trending Now CHCH. And while you're liking and subscribing, make sure you like the CHCH podcast page, which you can do wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or just go to chch.com/podcast. My thanks to Mike Corson for directing today's show. And one more time, thank you for joining us. From all of us here at CHCH, I'm Louie Butko. Have a great weekend.